Welcome to Coach Bennett's podcast, where every run has a purpose, where kindness is hardcore, where this is about running, and this is not about running, where every starting line is a finish line in disguise, where rambling still gets you where you need to be, where pineapple will never ruin your pizza, and the sodas, adult and not adult kind, are always cold, and where there is room on the starting line for everybody. I'm Coach Bennett. Thank you for letting me be a part of your day. Let's get started.
Okay, welcome to episode 80 of Coach Bennett's podcast. I gotta tell you what, I have been looking forward to this series of podcasts for a while. I love me the 80s. In fact, in the show notes, you're gonna get a link to an 80s mixtape, basically. Playlist really from Spotify that I put together. I think it's 40 hours long. Yeah, I did that. I sat around and put together a playlist of just 80s songs that's 40 hours long. Listen, there's a couple ways that you can experience this. You can just listen to it straight through, or if you want, just mix it up, put it on shuffle, and just rock out. Because listen, I will die on this hill. The 80s, it's the best. It's the best. It's the best music, period. And if you really want to see the best year for pop music, period, ever, full stop, send, 1984. 1984. Go ahead, look up like the best 100 songs from 1984, and you have to agree with me. You have to. You may not agree with me right now. You'll see the list, and you'll be like, oh, yeah, it's not even close. 1984. You go all the way back to 100, and 100 is a straight stone cold banger of a song. So anyway, that's not what this is about. This episode 80, is how to run more with less time. I think it's entirely fitting for this time of year, but here's the cool thing. It doesn't have to be about the holiday season and December and all that stuff that's going on that can really make you feel like every day has like 20 hours in it and not 24, and yet you've got 24 hours of stuff scheduled. I get it, but this is really something that you can use all year round because we all go through these periods, these seasons. Sometimes it's a week, sometimes it's a month, sometimes it just feels like it's a few days, sometimes it feels like it's the entire year, where we just don't have enough time. We just don't have enough time. And what happens is we start cutting out of our lives the things that are really good for us, like running. So what this is about is how to run more with less time, and I'm hoping that it helps you. And if you have friends, if you have teammates, if you have family members that feel like, they just can't find the time, not so much to do their responsibilities, because somehow we find the time to do that, but they can't find the time to take care of themselves. They can't find the time to do the things that bring them joy. They can't find the time to do the things that reinvigorate and refresh them. So pass this along to them. All right, that could be kind of like a gift. Hey, it's the gifting season, and as far as I'm concerned, every season is a gifting season. So let's just get right into this, because if you're like me, you're probably thinking, when is this dude going to start? Because he's talking about not having enough time, and he seems to be wasting a whole lot of time. So I'm going to start. Okay, my first thing I want to bring up on how to run more with less time seems like a Captain Obvious one, which is why I put it at number one, which is to plan and schedule when you're running. Now, here's the thing, and if you're being honest, and I want you to be honest, if you're being honest, then what happens when we feel like we don't have that much time? Our schedule starts to get weird. Things start to bleed into each other. We suddenly start penciling things out on the fly or after the fact, and we feel just kind of discombobulated. It gets to be very, very chaotic. And in chaos, it's very hard to stay focused. It's very hard to stick to a plan. It's very hard to stay on schedule. So what we do is we just kind of wing it. And that makes us feel even more out of control. And now here's the thing. When you're winging it, wildly inefficient, incredibly inefficient, which is why I'm telling you right now, the first thing is to plan and schedule your runs. Plan and schedule your runs. Now, here's why. If you have to schedule your run, And I mean, you're going to stick to it. Now, that's the thing. Like, you're kind of committing to this. You have this resolve that I am going to do the run if I can plan it and schedule it. And I'll tell you what, you will be more likely to get this run in if it is planned, if it is scheduled. Now, here's the thing, though. I want you to be taking advantage of the fact that this is happening in anticipation of the day, right? So this is happening the day before, the morning of, where I want you to be thinking about all the other things you need to do. Because here's what's going to happen. You're going to see where you can schedule your run. Now, some of you already are being like, I don't have time. Well, just listen. You're going to see where you can schedule the run, and you're going to see what kind of run you can do in terms of distance or duration. It may not be the run you want to do. So you may want to run for 45 minutes tomorrow. But when you are forced to plan that run, when you are forced to schedule that run, you may see, well, the only opening I have that's even remotely close to 45 minutes is this 30-minute block around 3 p.m. Okay, well, guess what? You're not getting in a 45-minute run. You're getting in a 30-minute run. Now, you can be disappointed. That's fine. But you can't diminish what you're about to do. You only have time for 30 minutes. So don't diminish the fact that you're going to do 30 minutes. You're going to do 100% of what you can do. Here's the other thing, which is really another gift to you. When you don't do the 45 minutes, there's going to be less disappointment since you scheduled a 30-minute run. What happens is we start these runs, we're like, I really want to run 45, knowing we can't fit in 45 minutes. And what happens is we do 30 minutes and we're immediately beating ourselves up for not doing the additional 15 minutes, even though those are spoken for, my friend. You've got other things to do, other places to get to. You can't get those 15 minutes in. But if you schedule 30 and you do 30, I'm not saying you're going to be, awash with gratefulness for doing 30 minutes, although you should be because you got it in and it was 100% of what you could do. What I'm saying is it will negate a little bit of that sadness is the wrong word, but sometimes it feels like that, or that feeling of being let down by yourself, because we will attack ourselves first. We won't attack the schedule, we attack ourselves. How can I not fit the time in to do 45 minutes and I couldn't do 45 minutes, I could only do 30? Well, guess what? You start the run with the goal of 30 minutes. Your vibe is going to be very different when you stop the watch at 30 minutes. Believe me, as opposed to starting a run with a goal you can't reach of 45 minutes and stopping it at 30 minutes and saying, look what I didn't do, 15 minutes, as opposed to look what I did do, 30 minutes. So plan and schedule your runs, especially during times when your schedule is going to be crazy. The crazier your schedule, the tighter your schedule, the better your running will be if you plan it and schedule it. I know it's a Captain Obvious thing, but I bet if you listen to this again, you'll start to think about all the times you set yourself up to be disappointed in yourself when you had no reason to be disappointed in yourself. And here's the thing. There is a delayed reaction sometimes to this constant disappointment during these periods of time where maybe a few runs go by and you're not really paying attention to it. But if you're consistently setting yourself up to be disappointed in the efforts that you're giving, even though the efforts you're giving is the entire effort you can be expected to give. I get incredulous when I go through this because it's nonsensical, but we all do it, myself included. Maybe not with running, because I've realized this is a really silly way to beat myself up that makes no sense and only makes me worse by doing it. But we set ourselves up to be disappointed in ourselves when we are still accomplishing everything we can possibly accomplish. Today I want to run 45, but I only run 30. I'm a disappointment to myself. Tomorrow I only have the time for 20 minutes, but I want to run 30. I'm disappointed that I didn't do the extra 10. Now, imagine if we flip this conversation and it's, wow, I have a really, really busy schedule. I only have time for 30 minutes. It's going to be tough to get in 30 minutes. And I get in 100% of what I could possibly do. Wow, That's amazing. And yes, take a step away from yourself and imagine this is a teammate, a family friend, someone you care about, and they say, you know what, I only had 30 minutes to run today. I ran 30 minutes. What would you say to them? Wow, you're a disappointment? I don't think so. So, first and foremost, plan and schedule the run. The next thing I'm going to bring up, run with purpose. You hear me say it all the time, every run has a purpose. Well, never is that more important when you are running during a period of time that has very, very tight scheduling, okay? If you go into a run, this is similar to planning and scheduling. They kind of work together, 1 and 2. And you say, I'm supposed to do a tempo run, and it's going to be 4K long. And you don't have time to run a 4K tempo run. What are you doing? Why are you setting yourself up to do 2K of a tempo run and have to finish it early and be upset? What you want to do is run with purpose. If you have a small amount of time and you can't do a 4K tempo, you know what? Adjust. Maybe turn it into that 30-minute run, or maybe turn it into a different type of workout. Turn it into a fartlek. Turn it into a mix of maybe it's a tempo followed by some intervals. You have the ability to adjust what you're doing to fit the period of time you have allotted to run. And what that allows you to do now in this period of time is to run with purpose. Too often we go in and we think we can outrun the amount of time that we've got. You can't do that. Or we try to jam in something that doesn't fit into the time slot. So we'll say, well, I got to do a tempo run, so I'm going to rush through the warm-up, and I'm going to rush through my drills, and I'm going to rush through my stretching, and I'm going to rush through the tempo because I got to do a 4K tempo, and it turns into a 4K race, and I'm not going to warm down. That's not the workout. That's not what you're supposed to do. That's not how it works. That's not how this whole thing works. Run with purpose, even if that means you have to adjust what the purpose of the run is. If you are running consistently, okay, even during periods where it seems like you don't have enough time to do the runs you want to do, if you're running consistently, what you have afforded yourself is the ability to have flexibility in your training. Take advantage of that. Mix that up. That's going to be one of the things later that I'm going to bring up, mixing things up, but I'm jumping ahead of myself. Okay, so run with purpose. Guess what? Here we are. Mix things up. What I'm trying to tell you here is you have the ability to change what the originally planned run was to fit this new schedule. I'll give you an example like I had yesterday. I had a very short amount of time, and I was like, you know what? I wanted to kind of run longer, and I don't have enough time, so I was a little bit frustrated that I couldn't go out and do a recovery run that I wanted to do. So I thought, you know what? I've got nothing coming up. I'm going to run a speed workout. I'm going to run a speed workout because I don't have that much time. This will mix things up. It'll give me a really great effort because I wanted to hit the trails and do some hilly running, and I didn't have the time to get out there and do all this stuff. So I figured, what would be the equivalent kind of spirit of what I'm trying to do? And I said, well, I kind of wanted to push myself today. I was thinking in my head I was going to run a little bit longer, and I was going to run a hillier terrain. So that was the way I was going to get the spirit of the run, which was I wanted to push myself. I wanted to challenge myself. Well, since I wasn't going to get to the trails and I wasn't going to get to the hills and I didn't have enough time to do any of that, I thought, you know what? I'll run from my house and I'll just do a fun little speed workout. And that's what I did. I actually did the first speed run in the app, which is 8 by 1 minute at 5K pace. But anyway, the point is I ran from my house and I did this little workout. I got back in less than 30 minutes. Because I only had about 35 minutes, and by the time I drove out to the trails and did the run, this would have taken at least 90 minutes to 2 hours to do all of this stuff. I was done in 30 minutes, and I was tired, and I was fatigued in the best possible way, and I challenged myself, and I pushed myself, and I felt really good, and that's what I was thinking about, like, how do I want to feel today? What is the purpose of this run? And for me, the purpose of the run was to push myself, to challenge myself. So it could have been a longer, hillier run, but I can also push and challenge myself with a shorter interval run. So that's what I did, all right? Now, I can tell you how you can flip this too. let's just pretend that we've got lots and lots and lots of time. And you could do a shorter speed workout, but you could say, you know what, I'm in maybe a new place because I'm visiting family or it's on work or whatever, and there's some trails nearby and they're really hilly. I think what I'll do is I'll just do a longer kind of recovery run, and I'll run this really hilly terrain, and it'll be challenging in a different way than the interval workout, but I've got all this time and it'll allow me to explore. I can achieve the spirit of the run in a different way. So just another way that you can flip it. So be open to mixing things up. Don't make the assumption that because it was originally planned to be a 5K recovery run, that it has to be a 5K recovery run. All right? And not every recovery run is built the same way. You can even mix up how you do that. And like I said, the terrains that you're running on, the undulations that are associated with the run, you can mix it up entirely and decide to do a speed workout. So just be open to the fact that if the goal is to run consistently, you have flexibility. All right? That's what I wanted to say by mixing things up. Here's another thing that a lot of people think is not for them because they don't run enough: doubles. Now, usually you hear about doubles when you're talking about people that have very high volume weeks, whether in kilometers, minutes, or miles. And one of the ways that they add more minutes, meters, and miles is some days they will run twice. And what happens is a lot of people assume that you have to only be a high mileage, high meters, high volume type of runner to do doubles. That's not true. Sometimes I'll do doubles because I don't have the time to do one normal run. So instead of doing, I'm making it up, my 40-minute run, which I really want to do, I realize I have 20 minutes in the morning and I've got 20 minutes in the evening. And here's a way to do two easier, less duration runs and still get 40 minutes of running in. That's something you can do, especially during the season where, like I said, your schedule can be chaotic and it can be very packed. So you may not have 30, 40, 60, 80 minutes in the afternoon to do the run you want to do. But if you look at your schedule, you may have two windows that are smaller where you can run, and you can run twice, okay? So don't think that doubles are only for people that have high volume running going on in their lives, all right? It's a great way to get in the minutes, the meters, the miles that you want to get in, all right? They don't have to be these big, long runs twice a day. They can be much shorter runs, especially if that's all you have the time for. So doubles is something you should think about. All right, another one is be an athlete. So a lot of times people will say, you know what, my schedule's packed. And listen, when your schedule's packed, that doesn't just mean like you don't have the time to run. Sometimes what that means is you don't have the time to get to where you need to be to run. All right, I'll give you an example. So I'm leaving work and let's say it's dark out and I don't have access to a place where I can run and feel safe and comfortable for a host of reasons, okay? It could just, like I said, be very, very dark. It could be that the weather is treacherous and I don't have access to a treadmill and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, how am I going to get my run in? Well, I see that there's a basketball court nearby. I can pick up basketball because I'll tell you what you do during basketball? You run. I don't know why runners think that kind of running doesn't count. It's basically a really intense fartlek workout. Same thing with global football, soccer for us Americans. Same thing with tennis, a lot of side-to-side movement, okay? There's a lot of moving, stopping, going, explosive energy that's occurring, a lot like when you're changing paces in an interval workout. You don't have to be doing a run to be running. You can be doing other sports. So be open when your schedule is not allowing for whatever reason. That can again be access to time or it can be access to a place to run. Be open to just being an athlete that runs and runs in a different way. Maybe it's a pickup basketball game, pickup soccer, global football game. Maybe it is playing tennis. There's all sorts of things you can do. It can be dancing. Right, I've brought this up a number of times. It can be dancing in an unbelievable cardio workout. What do you think's going on when you run? You're basically taking flight, which is another way of jumping, and you're working your cardio. It's a full body experience for the most part. You're almost bringing in every aspect of your body. It sounds a lot like dancing, right? Assuming you know how to throw down, and I know how to throw down. But the point is, if you don't have the time to get somewhere to do the run, maybe you can do the quote unquote running right where you are. Maybe it's in a gym, on a pitch, or maybe it's just in front of a mirror with some music on. And yes, you should have a mirror in front of you if you have the ability to have a mirror in front of you, and dance with yourself. You know what I'm talking about? That's what you should do. By the way, one of the great songs of all time, Dancing with Myself by Billy Idol, Generation X, the band that he was in when they first came out with it. But yeah, if you are not a Dancing with Myself fan, come on. One of the all-time great songs ever. And if you really want a party to kick into overdrive, put that bad boy on, because people will tear the dance floor apart. At least they should. I'll put a link to that in the show notes. You better believe I will. All right, another thing that you can do when you're running low on time, when you're having a hard time finding those moments in your schedule where you can do the run you want to do, is take a little bit of time, all right, and think, what do I get out of running? What is it? What is it about running, and what is it about what I get out of that makes me feel so good? What do I want to feel when I go on a run? What do I want to feel because I ran? What are those things? Is it? It's a great way to relieve stress. It's a way to get my heart rate up because I want to feel like I'm breathing fire through my lungs. You know what I mean? I love the feeling of my muscles, being worked. I mean, what is it? Is it the confidence that comes from working your body out? What is it? Then what I want you to do is think about other things you can do to bring those feelings into your life. Because guess what? Sometimes there just isn't an opportunity to run. There isn't. There isn't 10 minutes that you can find, even though you wanted to do 30 minutes. There isn't access to a basketball court or a pickup soccer game. There isn't the opportunity for you to say, I'm going to change my recovery run into a fartlek workout. There just isn't the opportunity to do that. But what are some things that you could do? What is it? Is it watching races? Is that one of the things you can do? Because I'll tell you what, when I was younger and when I was in college, I would watch races all the time. I'm not going to date myself to tell you how I was able to watch the races, but it wasn't on the internet because there wasn't one. The point is I would watch races and I would learn about tactics. I would learn about strategy. More than anything, I would get inspired and motivated by this sport. All of these things I would do over the course of a run. I would learn more about myself. I would learn more about the sport. I would think about strategy, tactics, my own weaknesses, my own strengths. This is what I could do by watching races. So don't think you have to run to get better at running. You can be running and learning about running by just watching other people run. So be a fan of the sport. That's something you can do. Another thing that I love about running for me is I'm always learning something about the world, whether it's because I'm processing things that I've heard or processing things that I've read or having a conversation with somebody. I'm always learning something. You can do that through reading, okay? Yeah, you can. And I'll tell you what, I have found that the people who read and read a lot tend to make better runners. And I'm not just measuring this by how fast they go. I'm measuring it by how smart they are, how they can handle setbacks, how motivated they can stay, how they're able to be consistent, how they can deal with struggles and hardship. You get that through reading because reading opens your mind, okay? You learn how to empathize with people. You learn how to respect other people. You learn how to respect yourself and therefore empathize with yourself as well. All of these things make for great runners. So read. These are ways where you can become a better runner by not running when you don't have the time to run, all right? Here's another way that you can run more with less time. Focus on your recovery. So if you're really, really busy, what usually comes with that is a level of stress. If you want to run more, I'll tell you what, learn how to positively deal with the stress in your life. Learn how to handle some of these hurdles that you have to go over, these barriers that you're coming up upon. If you can do that, you're going to get more out of the run that you eventually do. Now, think about this. If you're very, very stressed all day long, if you feel like you're on fast forward all day long, if you're not handling all of these things that are being thrown at you in the best way that you could, what happens is by the time you run, you're in a weakened state. By the time you run, because of this stress, your immune system is also weakened. By the time you run, you're not in the right headspace to do this run. You're going to be lacking focus. You're not going to have the concentration. You're probably not going to be making the right choices and decisions, at least not as well as you could have. You're not going to get out of the run what you could have. So simply by taking better care of yourself, you are going to get more out of the runs that you're doing without adding any more distance or duration to your runs. How cool is that? Very cool is the answer. It's a rhetorical question you did not have to answer, but for all of you that said it out loud, bonus points to you. All right, that's something I really want you to focus on during these periods of time where you feel like you don't have enough time. If you can handle it better, if you can deal with the stress related to all this better, if you can be a better teammate to yourself during these times, you are going to get more out of the runs you're doing without running more. Wow, we just unlocked something pretty badass, right? And it's just by taking better care of ourselves. How cool is that? And of all of the things I brought up, this is the one thing that you should be saying, okay, I'm excited to work on that. But what happens is, this is the one that people look at and say, that's the least important thing. Why? Because I'm talking about you. And you consider yourself the least important person probably in your life. How do I know that? Because of the way that you treat yourself. So if you can just flip this one, all of the other ones are going to get easier to do. Yes, if you can take better care of yourself, if you can be a better teammate to yourself, if you can coach yourself better, if you can be a better friend to yourself, all of the other things I brought up, like the planning and the scheduling and the running with purpose and the mixing things up and the double runs and being an athlete, and thinking about what you get out of running and then trying to find things in your life that also give you those things. All of those things are going to be easier to do if you're taking better care of yourself. If you are trying to recover when you're beaten down, when you are trying to heal when you're beaten up, if you can just take better care of yourself, all these other things get easier to do and you get more out of your running without running more. Whew, talk about awesome. Now, this is really special. Right now, I've got one more thing I wanted to bring up, and I saved it for last because we haven't had a Mindset Minute in a couple of episodes. So I figured, how can I possibly pay everyone back who's writing me and saying, Coach, where are Mindset Minutes? Well, how about literally giving you some Mindset Minutes? Because one of the things that I wanted to add to this list of things is visualization, which a lot of people don't do, and some people do and don't even realize they're doing it. But I wanted you to have a guided, focused visualization led by Coach Bennett the Greater. That's obviously Tammie from the Show Up Society. So she's going to come in, she's going to preface what exactly visualization is, how you can use it, and then take you through a great visualization exercise that I think is really going to help on this topic. So, without any further ado, baton passed to Coach Tammie.
Okay, so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about visualization. You also might hear of it as an imagery exercise. I have been doing this with people since 2009, I think, and it is a super powerful way to help you get better at your goals, to develop your skills to your goals. Also, it's a great way to calm yourself down if you're feeling a little bit of anxiety. So you might be feeling a little bit of anxiety about not being able to go run as much as you had wanted to, or maybe you're not able to do the specific thing that was in your running plan, and you might have a little anxiety about that. Doing this visualization or imagery exercise will actually help calm your nervous system a little bit, which is a nice bonus. So the best kind of imagery exercises take in as many of your senses as you can. And so for purposes of this mindset minutes, let's think of your goal in running. And just for ease sake, since I don't know each of your individual kind of scenarios or situations, let's just assume that your goal in running is an upcoming race. So we're going to do a little imagery exercise on that race. So I want you to think about crossing the finish line of that race. I want you to think about, what is the weather? What season is it? What time of day is it? What month is it? Is it cold? Is it rainy? Is it sunny? If it's rainy, I want you to imagine yourself crossing the finish line in soaking wet clothes. If it's sunny, I want you to imagine yourself crossing the line, maybe wet with sweat. Think about what you are wearing from head to toe. Do you have on a hat? What watch are you wearing? What shoes are you wearing? What socks? Maybe you can even imagine the bib number on your chest. I want you to think about the smells. Maybe you're smelling lots of BO of the runners around you, or maybe you are smelling hot dogs if there's, concession stand on the other side of the finish line. If you're like me that grew up racing in the 70s and 80s, you would smell beer because there used to be these magnificent beer tents to visit after you finish the race. What are you hearing? Are you hearing people clapping? Are you hearing the announcer? Are you hearing music? Are you hearing people breathing really heavily? Are you hearing people moaning and groaning because they're so tired from finishing the race? I want you to look around you. What's around you as you cross the finish line? Maybe it's your friends or family that are waiting for you with big giant hugs. Maybe it's the people coming up to you with a replacement drink or one of those silver blankets. Maybe it is people with signs. Maybe it's people laying on the ground trying to get their breath. So I've given you some good prompts to think about as you imagine yourself or visualize yourself crossing the finish line to your goal race. I want you also to think about, how do you feel physically, and also how do you feel emotionally? Are you relieved? Are you happy? Are you exhausted? What muscles are hurting? Or maybe they're not hurting. Maybe you feel like you have all of this adrenaline and you feel like $1,000,000. But I want you to take all of these prompts and to really sit and visualize or image yourself finishing this goal race. I want you to really be in it as much as possible. That might help you if you close your eyes and imagine it. If you live near the race course of where your race is going to be, you might even want to go to the finish line and just kind of picture yourself there, maybe stand near that finish line and picture yourself crossing it on race day. The power of this is that it can show your brain what is possible. And once your brain sees that, oh, this thing is possible, then you can kind of work backwards to help yourself show up in the ways that you need to, so that you can actually make that into a reality. So like I said, it calms you, it calms your nervous system, it shows your brain what is possible, it helps you just practice for the moment and make it a reality. It's a really powerful exercise. And like I said, I've been doing this since 2009, and I can't even begin to tell you how many people have done this exercise with me, and they get in touch with me, months or even years later sometimes, and they say, Coach Tammie, it happened just like I visualized it was going to happen. And everything I thought about in that visualization actually came true. It's actually kind of spooky, you guys, how many times this happens. So it's a great way to practice being in the moment, to practice what that's going to look and smell and taste like and feel like in and outside of your body. Just a great way to make it real for your brain. So it's a great way to practice your running and get more out of running, even if you are actually running a little bit less. So do this exercise, and then when all of these things that you visualized come true, get in touch with me on Instagram and let me know how it went so I can cheer you on.
Okay, what did I tell you? That was awesome. I'll tell you something else, though. We did this exercise about 2 weeks ago. She was helping me with something and said, hey, let's do this. And we went through this visualization exercise, and it was amazing. And it made me look at a whole bunch of things with my running specifically, totally different. I've been doing this for a long time. It takes a lot to kind of make me see things differently, even though I've got an open mind and I ask lots of questions. It's just because I've seen lots of stuff. But this completely changed the way I was looking at how I could use visualization in a way to make my running better. And not just my running better, but everything that happens before and after my run, also known as life. So anyway, thank you, Coach, for that. And that's the episode. Hopefully, this is going to help you take advantage of the time you've got and get more running in with less time. All right, so thank you to everyone for listening to episode 80. I can't wait for episode 81. But in the meantime, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and I'll meet you on the next starting line.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Coach Bennett's podcast, especially on this specific episode where I forgot to make sure that the mic was attached to the computer, which is why the audio was, how shall we put it, sub-mediocre. Be sure to check the show notes where any links I spoke about during the episode can be found, as well as links to things like Coach Bennett's newsletter, or where you can find me on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, how you can get in touch to ask for a cameo, or check out the 2 Coach Bennett's merch store. So check out those show notes because I put some time into those things. And thank you again for being a part of this awesome community.